Snowflakes fell silently, covering the cold ground of the alien planet in a thick white blanket. The wind howled through the trees, sharp and cruel, cutting through even the smallest cracks in the air. But in the middle of that frozen land were two tiny figures. Nyra and Lelu, their bare feet pressed into the icy snow, turning red from the cold. Nyra, the older one, held Lilu's hand tightly. Both girls had violet blue skin and small ridges on their cheeks, marks of their alien race. Their torn clothes hung loosely on their thin bodies, and their eyes were wide with fear. "Mom?" Lilu's voice was weak. "Where's Mom?" Nyra didn't answer. Her own lips trembled, not from the cold, but from not knowing. They had woken up in the snow hours ago. The shelter was gone. The others were gone, their mother. She had told them to stay put while she checked something. She never came back, now. The snow covered their legs, and their mother's voice was just a memory. Lilu sniffled, and tears fell from her eyes. They turned into ice as they touched her cheeks. "I want Mom." Nyra hugged her tightly. "We'll find her. Just keep walking." But walking was hard. The snow pulled at their legs, and every step burned. The storm around them showed no mercy. Trees bent from the weight of the ice. No sound came except the wind and the soft crunch of snow under their feet, until suddenly they heard it, a sound in the distance. Not wind, not an animal. Footsteps. Nyra froze. She pulled Lilu behind a fallen tree. "Stay quiet," she whispered. The sound grew closer. Slow, steady steps. Something or someone was coming. Then, through the blur of white snow, a shape appeared. Tall, 2 legs, wearing thick clothes. Human. The figure stepped just a few steps away. Steam came from his breath, and his face was half covered with a scarf. His eyes locked onto the girls. Nyra stood in front of Lilu protectively. "Don't hurt us." The human slowly raised both hands. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "You're freezing. Let me help." He dropped something onto the snow. A large, warm-looking blanket. Lilu looked at it with wide eyes. "Warm?" Nyra didn't move. "Where's our Mom? Did you take her?" The man's face softened. "No. I don't know where she is. I'm just a traveler. My name is Eli. I found your tracks in the snow." Nyra didn't trust him, but her legs were shaking, and Lilu's lips had turned blue. Eli took off his heavy coat and knelt in the snow. "You can take this. I'll stay here and wait. You decide." The snow kept falling. Minutes passed. Nyra finally picked up the coat and wrapped it around Lilu. Then she sat beside her sister, holding her close, still watching the man. Eli didn't move. He just waited. After a while, he spoke again. "What are your names?" Nyra didn't want to answer, but Lilu whispered, "I'm Lilu." Nyra sighed, "And I'm Nyra." Eli gave a small smile. "Nice to meet you both." There was silence again. But this time, it wasn't cold. The blanket, the coat, and the soft way Eli spoke made the snow feel a little less cruel. Eli gently asked, "Where is your home?" Nyra looked down. "We don't know. We just want our Mom." Eli nodded. "Then let me help you look. I have a shelter nearby. You can warm up there first." Nyra hesitated, but then Lilu started to cough. Her small body shook in the cold. Nyra stood up. "Okay, but if you try to hurt us, you can run," Eli said. "Or hit me with a stick, deal?" Lilu giggled weakly. It was the first sound of joy in hours. Eli stood and led them slowly through the snow, careful not to rush. Nyra held Lilu tightly in the coat as they followed. As they walked, the storm began to calm. But behind them, hidden by the trees, someone else watched. And the snow kept falling. Eli's boots crunched through the snow as he led the way. Behind him, Nyra held Lilu close, the heavy human coat wrapped around both of them. It dragged behind them like a cape, catching snow. But it was warm, so warm, it almost felt like their mother's arms. The storm was easing. The snowflakes fell slower now, drifting like feathers. The trees stood tall and silent, watching them pass. But the wind still bit their cheeks and fingers. Lilu's small voice broke the silence. Is he really helping us? Nira looked ahead. At the man, I don't know, but we don't have anyone else. Eli didn't speak. He just kept walking slowly, careful not to leave them behind. Every few steps, he glanced over his shoulder to check if they were okay. Finally, after what felt like forever, Eli stopped in front of a rocky cliffside. Hidden behind thick branches and ice-covered stones, there was a metal door. Old and scratched. Nira had never seen anything like it. Eli tapped a code into a small panel. The door slid open with a hiss. Come in, he said gently. Nira hesitated. She looked into the dark space behind him. Lilu shivered in her arms. Then Lilu whispered, Please, I'm so cold. Nira stepped inside. The shelter was small but warm. A fire flickered in a corner behind a protective screen. Blankets, old crates, and tools were stacked neatly. The place smelled like dust, metal, and something comforting like boiled roots. Eli quickly set down a heating pad. Sit here, he said. Nawira lowered Lilu onto the warm pad. Lilu sighed, her little fingers spreading out on the heat. Nira sat close, still unsure. Eli poured water into a small pot and added something green from a pouch. This will help, he said. Soup, not perfect, but it's hot. He handed them 2 metal cups. Nira sniffed hers. What is it? Plant broth. From local roots. Nothing scary, I promise. Lilu sipped it first, then smiled. It's warm. Nira finally tasted it. It was strange, but not bad. They sat in silence for a while. The crackle of the fire, the steam from the broth, and the soft hum of the shelter made it feel safe, almost. Then Eli spoke. What happened to your people? Nira didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, she said, We were in a village, hidden. We lived in caves when the sky turned bad. But one day, loud ships came. Bright lights. They called it the taking. Eli frowned. Who called it that? Our mother, Nira said. She said if they ever came again, we must hide. But she left that morning to check the hill. She never came back. When we woke up, everyone was gone. Eli sat quietly, letting the words settle. I think. Nira's voice cracked. They took her too. Lilu hugged her sister's side. I heard her scream. Eli's jaw tightened. He stood up and opened a small box near the wall. From inside, he pulled out a soft cloth doll, handmade, stitched from fabric scraps. Its face was simple, with button eyes and a thread mouth. My daughter made this years ago, he said softly. She's gone now. He handed the doll to Lilu. You can keep it. Lilu stared at it, then hugged it tight. Nira looked at him with confusion. Why are you helping us? Eli sighed. Because once, a stranger helped me. I never forgot. Later, when the girls fell asleep wrapped in fresh blankets, Eli stepped outside. The night was quiet. Stars sparkled in the sky, and the snow glowed under moonlight. But something felt off. He saw it. Tracks. Not his. Not the girl's single quotes. Large. Deep. Fresh. Someone or something had been near. Eli's hand went to his belt. A small pistol. Old, nearly dead, but it still worked. He scanned the trees. Nothing. But in the distance, a faint light blinked, blue, then gone. He went back inside and locked the door. Hours passed. The girls slept. The fire grew low. But Nira woke with a start. She had dreamed of her mother, calling her from beyond the snow. She looked around. Lilu was still asleep, hugging the doll. Eli sat nearby, eyes closed, but alert. Nira whispered, Thank you. Eli opened one eye. For what? For not leaving us, she said. He smiled faintly. You're not alone anymore. But in his heart, Eli knew they were not safe yet, and far in the woods, hidden in the dark, a pair of yellow eyes watched. The shelter, the snow had brought more than just cold. Lilu woke first. The small alien girl blinked slowly, warmth still wrapped around her from the blanket Eli had given them. The soft cloth doll, now named Pip, rested under her arm. She looked around the shelter. It was quiet. Safe. Nyra was still asleep beside her, breathing softly. Across the room, Eli stirred in his chair. He hadn't slept properly. One eye stayed open the whole night, hand resting on the small pistol near his belt. Something about the woods had unsettled him. When he noticed Lilu sitting up, he gave her a gentle smile. "Morning," he said softly. "Sleep okay?" Lilu nodded, rubbing her eyes. "Yes, warm." "Good. Want some soup?" Lilu nodded again. As Eli moved toward the heater, Nyra opened her eyes too. Her body ached, but it wasn't from cold anymore. It was from all the fear inside. She looked at Eli with suspicious eyes. "Why are you still here?" Eli chuckled a little. "I could ask you the same." Nyra didn't laugh. Eli set the soup near the girls. "You both have names, but no one ever asked, did they?" Nyra looked down. People don't ask names when they don't care. Eli sat down again, keeping his voice calm. "Well, I care. And I want to know more about you. If you want to. Tell me." Lilu happily took another sip of the soup. "Nyra sings sometimes. I like it." Nyra turned red. "Lilu, it helps me sleep," Lilu said with a smile. Eli smiled too. "Then I'd like to hear it someday." They stayed in the shelter most of the day. Outside the snow had calmed, but the wind still whispered secrets through the trees. Eli busied himself checking the scanner, an old device he'd repaired that picked up signals from nearby tech. But for now, it showed only static. Inside, Nyra finally asked, "Why do you live alone?" Eli paused for a moment. "My daughter," he said slowly, "was lost in the first wave of the war. My wife too. I didn't want to go back to Earth, so I stayed. I built this place, kept to myself." Nyra studied his face. It was lined and tired, but not cruel. There was something honest in his eyes, something that made her feel seen. "You were kind to us," she said softly. "Others weren't." Eli didn't push, but Nyra continued. "When the humans came long ago, some of them treated us like animals. Some just wanted to trade food for things, ugly things." Eli's fists clenched, but he kept his voice calm. "I'm sorry. That's not what we're supposed to be." "You're not like them," Nyra said. "You asked our names." That evening, Lilu sat near the fire drawing pictures in the dirt with a stick. She drew stars, a house, and a round figure that looked like a smiling Nyra. Then she whispered, "Do you think Mom is cold too?" Nyra looked away. "Maybe." Eli knelt beside them. "Do you remember where you last saw her?" Lilu pointed toward the mountains. "She went that way," Nyra added, "to check the hill. She said she heard something in the trees." Eli thought carefully. "That could be the same direction I saw the blue light last night." Nyra's eyes widened. "You saw a light?" Eli nodded. "Only for a moment, like a signal or a trap." Nyra stood up quickly. "We have to go." "Not yet," Eli said. "It's dangerous. If we leave now, we might not come back." "But what if she's there?" Nyra cried. "What if she's waiting for us?" Eli looked at her for a long moment, then said, "I'll go first. Alone, I'll check the hill. If I see anything, I'll come back for you both." Nyra hesitated. "I promise," he added. She finally nodded. That night, after Lilu had fallen asleep again, Nyra stayed awake beside Eli. "Why did you really help us?" she asked. Eli looked into the fire. "Because the universe is full of people who walk past others. I don't want to be one of them." Nyra's voice lowered. "You didn't walk past us." "No," Eli whispered. "I stopped. And I'll Keep stopping, for as long as you need me. The fire crackled quietly. Outside, the snow had stopped completely. The forest was still, but none of them knew what was waiting beyond the trees, because the blue light had appeared again this time, closer, and someone had whispered Nera's name. Asterisk. The morning was too quiet. Eli stood outside the shelter, scanning the forest. The snowfall had stopped, but the ground was thick with fresh powder. The trees were still, no birds, no animals. Only cold silence and footprints. They weren't his. They weren't the girls. He knelt beside one set larger than his boot, deep, like someone or something heavier had passed through during the night. The trail led away from the mountains and toward the shelter. His jaw tightened. He followed the tracks for a few meters, stopping at a tree where the snow was broken. Something had stood there. Watching, he looked up at the frozen branches. A small strand of black fabric fluttered, caught on a twig. Alien cloth. Light and silky. Not his. Back inside the shelter, Nera was already awake. She sat by Lilu, who was still sleeping peacefully with Pip the doll. Nera looked up at Eli. You saw something, didn't you? Eli nodded. Footprints. Something was near us last night. Nera's eyes darkened. Was it her? I don't know, Eli admitted. But the tracks led toward us, not away from the mountain. That's the wrong direction if she was returning. Maybe she was lost, Nera said. Maybe she turned around. Eli didn't answer, because deep down, he knew something else had been out there. Something watching. Waiting. After breakfast, Eli decided it was time. I'm going to the hill. He said, alone, just to check. I'll be careful. No. Nera stood. You don't know what's there. What if you get taken too? Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. I've been out there before. I'll leave the shelter locked and the alarm on. If anything comes close, the system will wake you up. Nera swallowed hard. Please, come back. I will, Eli promised. He gave Lilu an extra blanket and checked the pistol one more time. Then, he stepped out into the snow, alone. The hill wasn't far, but the climb was slow. Snow made the ground slippery, and broken tree branches covered the path. As Eli got higher, he saw signs, bent trees, black burn marks, strange shapes drawn into the snow. And then, the signal tower. It was alien tech, old, cracked, but still glowing faint blue. It looked like a flower made of metal, blooming from the ice. The light pulsed every few seconds. And beside it, a body. Frozen, curled up, half covered in snow. Eli rushed forward and dropped to his knees. A woman. Blue-purple skin like Nera and Lilu, same ridged cheeks. Her eyes were closed, her lips pale. A scarf wrapped around her hand, torn and dirty, but she wasn't breathing. Eli checked her pulse. Nothing. A soft beep pulled his attention. A small recording device on her chest had started to blink. He pressed the button. A weak voice played. If someone finds this. My name is Vela. My daughters are Nera and Lilu. Please. Find them. Don't let them fall into the hands of the traitors. They were chasing us. I had to lead them away. The message stopped. Eli's heart sank. This was their mother, and she had died protecting them. When he returned to the shelter, his face said everything. Nera stood up. You found her? Eli nodded slowly. I did. Where is she? She's gone, Nera, Eli said gently. She left a message for you. She saved you. Nera's knees gave out, and she fell to the floor. Lilu, now awake, saw her sister crying and hugged her tightly. What happened? Where's Mom? Nera couldn't speak. Eli sat beside them, silent, letting them grieve. No words could fix it. That night, the girls cried themselves to sleep. Eli stood outside again, staring into the darkness. The sky was full of stars, and the wind had calmed. But his mind was restless, because there was one more thing he hadn't told the girls. At the base of the tower, near Vela's body, He had found another set of footprints. Not alien, not hers. Human, and they didn't walk away. They circled the body and vanished. Eli didn't sleep that night. He sat near the door with his old pistol resting across his lap. His eyes stayed open, staring into the fire, but his mind kept going back to those footprints, human footprints found beside Vela's frozen body. Someone else had been there, and they hadn't left a trail away. That meant only one thing: they were still nearby. The next morning, Nira was quiet. She hadn't spoken since hearing the news about her mother. Lilu stayed close to her, holding her hand, not asking any more questions. Eli cooked them a warm meal, though none of them ate much. The silence inside the shelter felt heavy, like a thick blanket no one could remove. "We can't stay here much longer," Eli finally said. "If someone was following your mother, they might come here too." Nira didn't look up. "Let them." Lilu whispered. "What do we do?" Eli took a slow breath. "We go further south. There's an old research outpost buried in the cliffs. I stayed there once before. If we make it, we'll be safer." Nira finally looked up. "Then let's go." They packed quickly. Eli gave both girls thick gloves and newer boots he had kept stored. Too big, but better than walking barefoot. He carried most of the supplies and kept the pistol hidden under his coat. The forest felt darker than before. The snow was thin now, melting in patches. Ice clung to the trees like frozen claws. Nira walked ahead with Lilu close behind her. Eli followed. Watching the trail, they moved slowly but steadily until Lilu screamed. Her legs sank into the snow up to her thigh, and she fell forward. "Lilu!" Nira ran to her, grabbing her arms, but something was wrong. There was metal under the snow. A snapping sound echoed through the trees, like a beast's jaws closing. A trap! Lilu screamed in pain. Eli rushed over, dropping his bag. He carefully pulled back the snow and sawed a rusted metal snare clamped around Lilu's leg. The teeth hadn't broken the skin, but it had pinched tightly and left bruises. Nira cried out, "Help her, please." "I am," Eli said calmly, already working. "Don't move her leg." He used a flat piece of metal from his bag to pry the trap open slowly. His hands shook from the cold, but he focused hard. With a soft click, the trap released. Lilu whimpered as he lifted her out. The trap wasn't alien. It was human-made. This wasn't just to catch animals, Eli said grimly. Someone wanted to catch something bigger. Nira wiped tears from her eyes. Who would do that? Eli looked around the trees. Slavers, hunters, people who sell the weak for food or credits. Like the ones Mom ran from? Lilu asked, her voice shaking. Eli nodded slowly. Yes, he carried Lilu in his arms as they moved again, even slower this time. Nira stayed close, holding the pistol now. Eli didn't argue. She had every right. By sunset, they reached a narrow pass between the cliffs. Just beyond the rocks, Eli saw a half-buried dome made of old human tech, nearly invisible under vines and snow. We're here, he said. That's the outpost. They moved quickly now. Ailey punched in the access code. The door groaned open, revealing a long hallway with lights, flickering above. The air inside smelled like rust and old machines, but it was safe. Warm, Lilu was. Placed on a soft bench and covered in thick blankets, Nira looked at Eli. She be okay, right? She have a bruise, maybe a limp for a day or two, he said. But she's strong, like her sister. Nira gave a small, sad smile. She's stronger than me. No, Eli said. You held her hand through everything. That's real strength. Later, while Lilu slept, Nira sat beside Eli in the hallway. She asked, Do you think they'll come here too? Eli didn't lie. Maybe. Nira looked down. Why do people like that exist? Eli stared at the flickering light above. Because kindness is rare, and rare things always have enemies. But we didn't do anything wrong, she said. Eli nodded. That's what makes you good. And good people scare bad ones. Nira thought about that in silence. Then she said, "Thank you for not being like them." Eli didn't respond. He just placed a protective hand on her shoulder. But outside the outpost, buried beneath the melting snow, more traps were waiting. And this time, they were set to kill. The outpost was silent, wrapped in shadows and flickering lights. Eli checked every hallway, every room, every broken screen. He made sure no doors had been opened from the outside, no windows broken. He even set a motion alarm near the main entrance. Something didn't feel right. Nira sat beside Lilu, brushing a soft cloth over her sister's leg. The bruise from the trap was darker now, but not spreading. Lilu was quiet, her eyes sleepy, but her breathing was calm. Eli returned and handed Nira a cup of hot water. "We'll move again in a day or two, when Lilu's stronger." Nira nodded. Then, from behind them, a sound echoed through the hall. Beep. It came from the old com station, an ancient human device, covered in dust, wires hanging from the sides. Beep, buzz. Beep. Eli stood quickly. "That shouldn't be working. I didn't power it up," Nira followed. "What is it?" Eli tapped a few buttons. The screen flickered, then a soft voice played through the static. "Nira, Lilu, if you hear this, come to me. I'm waiting. Come, before they take you too." The voice was shaky, but soft, familiar. Nira gasped. That's Mom." Lilu sat up in the other room. "Mama?" Eli stared at the screen. "It's a pre-recorded message. But how did it connect to the system?" The message played again. "Nira, Lilu, please, hurry." Nira looked at Eli with wide eyes. "She's alive. She's calling for us." But Eli's face didn't show joy. Only concern. He opened the back of the comms unit. Wires had been moved recently. Fresh fingerprints, not his. "Someone reconnected this device," he muttered. From outside. Nira's hope began to fade. "You think it's fake?" Eli didn't answer immediately. He played the message again. Listened closely. In the background of the recording, behind the mother's voice, was something strange. Click, clack, chains. He froze. "Where did your mother record that goodbye message?" he asked carefully. Nira blinked. "Next to a tower, near the mountain." There were no chains there. No metal sounds. She was lying in snow. "Alone," Eli whispered. Nira single quotes S face went pale. Lilu asked, "What does it mean?" Eli looked at both girls. "It means someone is using your mother's voice. Maybe they took a recording. Maybe they're copying her, but it's not her now. It's a trap." A loud crash came from outside the outpost. Eli grabbed his pistol and rushed to the door. He checked the cameras. One had gone black. "They're here," he whispered. They followed the signal. Nira picked up a sharp metal rod. Lilu hid under the bench with Pip. Eli opened a small storage hatch. "There's a hidden tunnel under the outpost," he said quickly. "I built it for emergencies. It leads deep into the cliffs." "You're not coming?" Nira asked. "I'll block the door, slow them down," Eli said. "But you both have to go." Now Nira hesitated. "I'll find you." "I promise," Eli said. The tunnel was narrow and cold. Nira held Lilu's hand tightly, leading the way with only a weak light stick. The walls around them dripped with melting ice, and the sound of wind above echoed down. They walked for what felt like hours. Then they heard it. Voice. Not Eli's, not their mother's. It was both twisted together. "Nira, don't run. Come to me, bring your sister," Lilu whimpered. "It's not her. That's not Mama." "I know," Nira said. "Keep going, don't listen." But the voice kept following. "I'm waiting. Don't make me call again." Suddenly, the tunnel split into two paths, left or right. Naira listened. The fake voice echoed stronger from the left dot, so she pulled Lilu to the right. They reached a small hollow in the rocks. A crack in the ceiling let in faint light from outside. "We can rest here," Naira said, holding Lilu close. "I want Eli." Lilu whispered. "Nyr." I looked up at the crack in the ceiling. "Me too." Then a shadow passed over the light above. Someone was standing above them. Meanwhile, back at the outpost, Eli stood at the main entrance, pistol raised. A group of figures approached, 4 of them. 2 were tall and armored. The 3rd was human. The 4th was strange. A robotic body with a projector mounted on its chest, and from the speaker, it played Vela's voice again. "Naira, come home." Eli aimed at the robot first. The war for the girls had begun. Snow drifted through the cracks in the cliff, falling gently onto Naira's hair. She stood in the small hollow of rock, holding Lilu close, eyes fixed on the shadow above them. Whoever stood up there didn't speak, didn't move, just watched. Nyr didn't blink. She picked up a sharp rock and whispered to Lilu, "Don't make a sound." But the figure above finally moved, and it wasn't alone. 2 more shadows stepped into view beside it. Then, the fake voice came again. "Naira, bring your sister. I'm waiting. Come now." This time, the voice didn't sound soft. It sounded broken, cold, almost angry. Lilu hugged Pip the doll tighter. "That's not Mama, I know it now." "I know too," Naira whispered. "We don't run anymore." Back at the outpost, Eli crouched behind a metal console, breathing hard. The broken robot that used Vela's voice lay in pieces on the floor, its projector sparking. He had taken out 2 attackers with quick shots. But the human slaver was still alive, and he was furious. "You think you're a hero?" the slaver shouted. "Those alien girls aren't yours." Eli growled, stepping into view, pistol raised again. "They are now." The slaver raised a shock baton. "You can't claim them. They're property." Eli fired. The man dropped, and the room went silent. Eli stood over the bodies, chest rising and falling. His hands shook, not from fear, but from anger. He looked down at the projector and crushed it with his boot. "No one owns them," he muttered. Back in the cliff tunnels, the shadows above began to climb down. Slowly, cautiously, they had weapons, long rods and nets. Naira knew what they wanted. "Lilu," she whispered, "when I say run, you crawl into that tunnel behind you and don't stop. Don't turn around." Lilu's lip quivered. "But you go when I say," Naira said. "Promise me." Lilu nodded. Nyra stepped forward into the open, holding the sharp rock in one hand. The first man landed heavily on the ledge. His eyes were covered in tech goggles, his mouth twisted in a smirk. "Feisty little alien," he hissed. "You're worth good credits." Naira didn't answer. She charged. The rock cut across the man's face before he could react. He screamed, stumbling back. "Run, Lilu!" Naira shouted. Lilu scrambled into the tunnel, but another man grabbed Naira from behind. She kicked, bit, screamed, but he was stronger. "Got you now," he snarled. Then a blast of red light hit him in the chest. He fell. Eli stood at the top of the cliff, arm outstretched, pistol still smoking. "Let her go," he growled. Naira stumbled forward, coughing, tears mixing with dirt on her face. "Eli," he rushed to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, barely. Then they heard Lilu scream, "Naira!" A final attacker had slipped past into the side tunnel and was dragging Lilu by the leg. Eli ran. Naira ran faster. They reached the tunnel just as the man lifted Lilu into his arms. "Put her down," Eli shouted. The man laughed. "She's worth more than both of you combined." Eli's pistol clicked. Out of ammo. The slaver raised his weapon. Then Naira threw herself at him. She slammed into his knees, knocking him off balance. Lilu slipped from his grip. The man raised his hand to strike her, but Eli tackled him from Behind, a punch dot another dot, and the man didn't get up again. Later, when the danger had passed, the three of them sat quietly in the outpost. Lilu leaned against Eli's side. Holding Pip, Nira sat across from them, staring into the fire. "You came," Nira said softly. Eli looked at her. "Of course I did. You didn't have to," she said. "We're not yours." Eli shook his head. "You don't have to be mine by blood. For me to protect you." Lilu looked up. "So, what are we now?" Eli smiled gently. "Your family, if you want to be." Nira's lip trembled. She looked away, but a single tear rolled down her cheek. "No one's ever said that to us before," she whispered. Eli stood and opened his arms. "I'm not your mother," he said. "But I'll never leave you. That's a promise." Nira stood slowly. She walked over and hugged him. Then Lilu joined, and for the first time in their lives, the girls didn't feel like lost children anymore. They felt like they belonged. Outside, snow began to fall again, but this time it didn't land on bare feet. It landed on footprints that walked together, a human and two alien daughters, together into a future no one expected. But they all chose